We have not met before. My name is Reverend Alexis Fuller-Wright. I'm the pastor here at Salem, and I had the privilege of being Edie's pastor for the last year of her life. I am honored to be with you today as we celebrate this beautiful, dynamic life. This room makes up a fraction of the people who loved Edie. And of course, each person here who knew her has a different story to share about their life with her. And today we will start that process of storytelling. But it will be up to us to continue that on, because we're only going to scratch the surface. Our remembrances with her, of her, are one of the ways that she continues to live on, and her spirit continues to be a gift to us. So as we prepare to enter this special time of goodbying, I hope that you'll join me in prayer for a moment. Holy and loving God, we thank you for this chance to gather together today, to pray, to cry, to let go. We come to this place knowing we are surrounded by the spirit of comfort and of peace, the spirit of healing and of hope. May this gathering be a chance to celebrate a life that has touched ours, as well as an opportunity to pour out our grief, to release any anger or regrets, and to support one another in our common loss. Provide us the gentle guidance of your healing, that we may know the peace that only the presence of love can offer. In your many names we pray. Amen. Our opening hymn this morning is number 664, Morning Has Broken. Please join as you are able. Please be seated. I'd like to invite Sarah Waltz, Malcolm's wife, forward to share Psalm 23 with us.
Elizabeth was Edie's only grandchild, and she asked, "What is my role today?" And so I see there's a different version here for me to read. Is this the preferred version? Okay.
You may use whichever version feels right to you.
Okay. Well, Elizabeth and I will do this as a responsorial reading. The Lord is my shepherd.
The Lord is my shepherd.
I shall not want.
I shall not want.
He maketh me to lie down
He maketh me to lie down
in green pastures.
in green pastures.
Oh, you have your own.
Here you go.
He leadeth me beside the still waters.
He leadeth me beside the still waters.
He restoreth my soul.
He restoreth my soul.
He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness
He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness
for his name's sake.
for his name's sake.
Yea,
Yea,
though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
I will fear no evil,
I will fear no evil,
for thou art with me.
for thou art with me.
Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me.
Thy rod and my staff comfort me.
Thou preparest a table before me
Thou preparest the table before me
in the presence of mine enemies.
in the presence of mine enemies.
Thou anointest my head with oil.
Thou anointest my head with oil.
My cup runneth over.
My cup runneth over.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me
all the days of my life,
all the days of my life.
and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever infinity times. Amen.
Can you give it back?
Thank you.
Squishy, squishy.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Sarah. And Malcolm, we invite you forward to share your remembrance.
Good morning. When I was putting this together, I realized I have more to say than could possibly fit in the entire service, so I will try to keep it to the point. If you knew my mother or almost any one of her direct relations, you know that the Waltzes can talk. One of the things that really struck me when I was putting this together was how much we are affected and shaped by our our early childhood experiences and memories, and this is well known. I've been hearing about the formative years since I was still in them. My earliest memories are of my mother and I as a team. Us versus the world. So my mother was a single mother in the late 70s and early 80s. There were many challenges that go with that. I was hyperactive. My grandmother used to say I was like 3 children. She should know, she had 12. So my mother had people constantly saying that, claiming that she couldn't raise me by herself. That I would turn out to be a sissy or gay, as if that has anything to do with single parenthood. She faced sexism, which I witnessed many times. There was challenges with childcare. I often spent time with her in her jobs. And she had numerous health setbacks and challenges, including cancer when I was 3. And she had financial difficulties, one of the things that really shaped her life was the loss of her father when she was 8 years old. It shaped her life to the very end. Many of the decisions she made reflected back to that loss and the effect it had on her early childhood. But through all this, she persisted. She started businesses. She got a degree. She got art degrees. She got a paralegal degree from Villanova. She got a master's degree in information systems from Drexel. Why a paralegal degree? Well, she was interested in the law. She was interested in the law because her mother was a legal secretary, among other things. Why Drexel? Her father got a degree from Drexel. She persisted to give me a good, to make sure I had a good education and good opportunities. My mother had diverse interests and probably the most diverse career, numerous careers that of anybody I know. She was interested in art, fashion, theater, the law, technology, nature, and her core values and beliefs really drove much of what she did and who she was. So, and those core values and interests really did come from and were shaped by her family in many instances. She had a strong view of anti-violence and the importance of love, the importance of learning, curiosity, and education, and eating well. So she used to say, "You are what you eat." These things all shaped myself and my immediate family now. My daughter's eating preferences can have a direct line from my mother teaching me what to eat, and doing things like making homemade baby food for me when I was a baby because she couldn't find good quality baby food that didn't have sugar or preservatives in it. My mother was a self-described teetotaler. That also affected my life significantly. My mother never drank or smoked or took any illegal drugs, and that influenced me very directly in my beliefs. My mother believed in generosity and open-mindedness. She was affirming, so she always made it clear that her love was unconditional, and she wasn't afraid of. She wasn't homophobic or worried about my sexual orientation. She always made sure that whatever I was, she would love. She believed in equality among people of all sorts. And she was a feminist, which was driven by her knowledge of the inequality of the world and her experiences of that. She, showed tremendous, she believed in kindness and compassion towards other people and animals, especially cats. Through everything that she did and everything she was, it's very clear that she shaped me and thus my daughter. And I just wanted to share a tiny snapshot of all of the things that affected me and in my life. So there's, I guess. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm, for giving us a glimpse into the mosaic of Edie's life. And I'd like to invite up David Barker, who is a family friend who also has some reflections to share this morning.
Good morning. I'm honored to be able to give some perspective. Malcolm asked me to speak, and I was happy to do so. I took a couple of notes, but I really kind of just wanted to make 3 points, some observations about the interactions that I had with Edith. I knew her for more than 30 years. We had an interesting start to our friendship. Malcolm mentioned her pursuing a degree at Drexel in information systems, and I hired her as an intern during that period, which seems kind of backwards, right? Somebody with her amount of life and career experience. And that kind of leads me to my first point, and Malcolm touched on this in his comments. Edith's courage and her curiosity, I think, were one of the defining things in the interactions I had with her. That's how we met. She had the courage, amongst other things, to change careers at a point, later in her life, which the difference between IT and art and design and legal pursuits is pretty big. And she made that change. She did it with a confidence that she brought to many things. And it also highlighted the curious mind that she had. She always asked really good questions, and she was courageous enough to ask what, she might even say, oh, well, this is probably a dumb question, but there really are no dumb questions when you come down to it. So that's where we started. I think that I mentioned, her artistic pursuits, which is, that artistic spirit's one of the second things I wanted to talk about here. Because you couldn't interact with her and not see that. Some of the things that are downstairs, if you didn't get an opportunity to see in the assembly room, are worth, looking at. And she had a very deep knowledge of it. It wasn't just a hobby. She could talk to you about color theory and would at times. And you would struggle to perhaps keep up with some of that because her knowledge was really deep on it. As it was in a lot of things, because she was, as I said, a curious mind and a lifelong learner. Most recently, because, her eyesight wasn't as good, she spent a lot of time knitting because there was a fair amount of, tactile feedback to that. I know she would spend time making things for friends and for family, and she took great pleasure in that. And that kind of leads me to my third point around family and friends, because she had made me a scarf recently that I'll treasure for a long time. The work in it, she cared deeply about the particular yarn and the color of it and the texture of it. This was not just some casual pursuit. I don't know if she really had any casual pursuits. But that brings me to the point about, she cared about that. She understood it, but she also cared about it deeply in terms of the interactions that she would have with people, with her friends, and certainly with her family. It was already mentioned that if you knew her, you knew she liked to talk. But when she talked, very often the topics were her family, Malcolm, how proud she was of him and his family, and later, Elizabeth, who was just, the light in her eyes, many times. I mean, she would share with me pictures of her, things she had made, like what she's holding up now. She was so overjoyed to have Elizabeth in her life, as I think, well, anybody would be, right? Her parents, her friends, etc. You know, she would talk about, you know, Malcolm mentioned her father. She would talk about her siblings. These were constants in the conversations, and it was obvious that, you know, as she spoke lovingly about these people, how much, you know, family really mattered to her. And I guess cats were mentioned, and maybe we can include the cats in the family category, because certainly they were important to her in that way. So to kind of wrap things up, and maybe this goes with some of Reverend Alexis's comments at the introduction, you know, maybe the best way to, you know, remember and honor Edith is as the mother and the grandmother, the sibling and the friend that we all knew in different ways, and as this artistic spirit with a curious mind, and remembering those things and speaking of her fondly as she spoke of us, I think is a wonderful way to honor her memory. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. If you would please rise as you're able and join us in hymn number 753, Make Me a Channel of Your Peace. Please be seated. There are many people who wanted to be here today, including several of Edie's sisters who live abroad. They were not able to travel to be here, but we do have a poem written by one of them that I invite Janet Ogilby to come and share with us.
Good morning to you all. I'm shrinking as I get older. I had the pleasure, as many of my church friends in the audience did, of becoming, I thought of a name last night. I'm calling them Edie's Entourage. Now, Edie's Entourage, we're on call to bring her to church, to take her to doctor's appointments, and just be there. When Edie would call me and the ID came on, like Malcolm said, I would go, oh, this is going to be half an hour at least. And it would be, and I don't begrudge 1 minute of it now. She was a gift to me. She was a gift to anyone who got to know her, because she was an original. And I am honored because she would often tell me about her sisters. I always wanted to go to France to meet the sister that lived there, but I didn't get there. This is by her sister Doris, and just as David was expressing about her art, it touches very directly on what Edie was about. Cobalt blue, lavender, peach, salmon, scarlet, magenta. Edie's colors came in palettes of pastels or pure deep color. There were so many colors with which she painted her life. Edie was an artist who lived and worked in color, crafting dresses and blouses and skirts on sewing machines, scarves and shawls and berets on knitting needles, creative motifs on wallpaper and fabric, animal spirits in totems vividly alive on canvas, and rooms, many rooms full of beautiful, practical things for living and dining and cooking and sleeping in color. Edie was our always colorful sister who felt things so deeply, who played her roles of mother, wife, partner, and friend so sincerely on life's stage. Edie, our dramatic, dynamic, larger-than-life sister, is gone from us too soon, way too soon. But our memories will ever be splashed with the rich and vibrant colors of her spirit. So thank you, Doris. And just because Edie and I tried to always make each other laugh, I wanted to share very briefly that if you look around, quite a few of us from Edie's entourage are wearing, like David said, things that she knitted for us. And you would go to take her somewhere. There are scarves, there, my sweater, and she was a perfectionist, and her work was beautiful as she was. Her cats. I hope this is not an inappropriate story.
Well, now you have to tell it.
Notice I looked to my minister. What do you think? She had this lovely little gray cat who got very, very sick. And she called me and she said, Janet, I can't. She couldn't drive, she couldn't see well. And she was, struggling with many things. She said, would you take, I think it was Grace. Was it Lucy or Grace? Grace. And it was a beautiful little cat. She said, would you take Grace to the veterinarian? And it was during COVID. So we put Gracie in a carrier. And as I left Edie's house, she said, her favorite song is You Are My Sunshine. Would you sing that all the way? And I don't think I've ever had to do that before. But I did it, and that was Edie. You didn't say no to Edie. And so if you see anyone wearing a beautiful knit piece, please say hello to us. We are Edie's entourage. And what really cracked me up is I was getting the sweater out and thinking of things. And she had also given me a beautiful piece of a silk scarf. She was so artistic. And I think we bonded over that. I taught art for years. And when I sometimes spent time with Edie, I felt like I was maybe at the bottom of the ladder. But I got out the silk scarf thinking, oh, maybe I can wear it with my sweater. And tucked in the bag with this scarf was, "Dear Janet, wearing suggestions. 1, fold on diagonal. 2, drape over shoulder. 3, tie in single knot or double knot." And then she says, "Enjoy, love Edie," with a heart. And that, to me, was Edie. So thank you very much for letting me read the poem and share all the gifts she gave us. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. And your story is perfect because it leads us into the time of shared remembrance together. Thank you for kicking us off and for sharing those pieces of Edie. If you have a story or a memory that you would like to share with the group, I invite you to come forward to the podium and share it with us now.
Good morning. This might be a little longer than just a shared memory. I'm Mary Lou Eric. I met Edie around 2001, and she called on the phone. I sell real estate, so I think I must have been on floor duty that day. Well, we talked and talked, about an hour and a half, but it doesn't sound like that would surprise anybody here. She told me her life story, but everything was so real. We became fast friends. She's bought and sold homes in the Doylestown area. She's settled in Buckingham Springs. But what I really want to say was she was unique. She was gifted, talented, artistic, highly intelligent, and politically savvy. If I had a question, I could call her, and she would give me what was going on. She was a knitter. Here I am. She loved the color purple. I don't like the color purple, but I wore it for her today. She loved jewelry. She gave me this, and most of the pieces that I have on my bracelet right now, or my arm. She had her own wardrobe of color, and her home was spectacular with color. An orange table, a blue sideboard. I mean, you just felt so warm and cozy in her house. And she really loved her family. Malcolm, she talked about constantly. And Sarah, when they got married. And then Elizabeth. To have Elizabeth was the light of her life. But she had a business side. She made wedding dresses. I was just astounded. I could listen for hours about that in Canada. Then she comes to the States and she says, okay, I'm going to teach art at a college. She did that. And then she gets her business degree and she works at Pico and Merck. That's kind of where I came into the picture when she was working there. But through that initial conversation and purchasing homes, we have become lifelong friends. But I think Edie would enjoy this poem, but it's a little sad, from Emily Dickinson. The reason I want to say that poem is because this death kind of was sudden to me, and it just meant something. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gaze and grain. We passed the setting sun, or rather he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. Rest in peace, Edie.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is John Graves. I'm part of Edie's entourage, too. My wife and I own a home care agency, and Edie was a part of my heart. She called us in June of 2021 and said, I need some help. Haven't been able to go to the doctors since COVID hit. Haven't seen my eye doctor, haven't seen my foot doctor, haven't seen my doctor. My cats need to go to the doctor. I need doctors. So we took Edie on, and but she said, first, John, you have to interview with my son. So I had to interview with Malcolm, and she said, he likes you. Okay, let's do this. So I had a couple caregivers come to the house. She didn't like them. So I didn't want to give up on Edie because she's a sweetheart. So we just took it down to just me transporting her to all these doctor's appointments. So I got a chance to become very close to her. She talked the whole ride there and the whole ride back, but I loved it. When she called the office and spoke to my staff, she had them on the phone for about 45 minutes to an hour, but my staff loved her. She had an opportunity to meet my son. My son transported her to a couple doctor's appointments. My son loved her, but nobody was taking away my Edie, so I was her main transport person. Sometimes I would just stop by just to help put some salt in her water softener or go to the store for her, whatever she needed. I will miss her deeply. I know she loved you guys. Elizabeth, your grandmother loved you. I've seen every picture, especially Halloween. Edie was my girl. I was gonna wear my scarf that she knitted me, but I thought it'd be a little weird to wear it right now. She made it my favorite color, which is burgundy, which is the color of our corporate colors. And she took forever to make that thing because she wanted it to be perfect. You know, when Malcolm called and told me that she had passed, it really, really hurt me. And it hit me hard because I spent a lot of time with Edie over the last few years. I got to hear every story, and I loved all of them. David, she talked about you all the time. You were a part of her heart. I'm going to miss her, and thank you.
Hello, I'm Maddie. My grandmother spoke earlier here. So I had the pleasure of meeting Edie when I was like 18 months old, so I've known her like my whole life. I'm 24 now, and we really connected from the start. The story goes that when I was 18 months old and I met her, I was like in my mom's arms, and I saw Edie, and I was like, I reached out my hands to go to her like instantly, so I really trusted her from the start. Edie sometimes would spend holidays with my family, so with Easter and Thanksgiving, and we would usually sit together and we would talk forever. And so we always really connected, and she was a wonderful storyteller. And she would tell me all sorts of things about her growing up and her doing theater and her travels, and it was so interesting. I had never traveled anywhere at that time, and she taught me about even statistics. She had such a broad knowledge base. And then when I was a senior in high school, I took AP statistics, and I loved it so much. And I remembered how she had told me about it when I was 13. And just Edie, I felt like she was like really invested in my life, and like she truly made me feel like cherished. Like she called herself my biggest fan. Like she would sign the emails off like, your biggest fan, Edie. It was really sweet. And so she knew how to make people feel loved and cherished. And it was like really inspiring. I want to do that too, like to make people feel how she made me feel. And she also taught me like how to not be afraid. Like when I was in high school, I was like more anxious, and she was like, she gave me this gesture. She told me, I think at like Thanksgiving, she was like, okay, Maddie, so you start here and you just go, open up. Just like open up to the world and everything. And she even like sent me a picture of someone doing that with their arms out in email to remind me. Edie also valued prayer, and she would like often pray and also in like gratitude, and also ask for prayer. The last time I saw her, I was visiting her house with my grandmother, and I got to like pray for her before leaving, and it was a special moment. And I do want to say a Bible verse. The Bible says in Matthew, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." And this week I was looking up like the Greek words for mourn and comfort, and mourn means to grieve and to lament, and that's what we're here to do today. And comfort means to call to one side. It's like the idea of like having God like close to our side. And I have found that in the darkest places we can often grow closest to God. And I admire that Edie prayed often. And I'm so grateful like for the life that God gave Edie, and the blessing of getting to know her. She was lovely.
Hi, good morning. So we're here today to celebrate Edie's life, a woman whose warmth, creativity, and love touched so many of us. Edie was not only a mother, a grandmother,